Flipping it up and out. Bogut! A recent block by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get Rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues, the basketball series. Myself, Mike Procopio, just at the tail end of Game 2 of the NBA Finals. We'll get into that shortly. But, Pro, what's going on?
Man, we got a midnight start tonight, Bogues. We're waiting after the second game, but yeah, it was pretty.
The dedication you have for the podcast, Pro. It's the dedication you have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Plus, you know, we've got some ice cream sandwiches in the fridge that we're redoing our kitchen over. So I got to be like Tom Cruise in fucking Mission Impossible to get through the construction site to the fridge. But you know, dedication, my man, dedication.
Your wife has it cordoned off from you, huh?
No doubt. She only wants to spend $75,000 in the kitchen just to keep me out of there at night. So, you know, hey, that's dedication on her part.
It's for your benefit, bro. That's the way you got to look at it. All right, moving on. Boston, Miami, we had a Game 7 after our pod last week, so we'll discuss that a little bit. It goes to Miami, obviously, because we're in the middle of the finals, but we'll touch on Boston a little bit. Look, I give credit to Boston, bro. We were scathing of them. So was the whole basketball world. I mean, 3-0. They made it a series and went 3-3, so I think commendable that they actually fought back. But Miami just too poised, too tough. I felt like they just looked like more of a unit, more of a squad. Boston kind of went individual throughout that series. They brought it back when they won those 3 in a row, but you could see something missing. There was something missing from that lineup. A lot of ISO ball, pro. So we know, teams like to get it up quick and take quick shots and whatever, but I was just studying the passes per possession, especially in that Game 7, and it just felt like if Tatum or Brown got a kick ahead in transition, meaning that someone's thrown it to them as they're attacking, it was going up or it was one more pass going up. And, on the flip side, you look at Miami, they get a rebound, they get a stop, they walk it up. They push it a little bit, but they walk it up for the most part. They move it side to side. Robinson's running around off screens. Butler's moving. Bam's attacking, and they generally got a good shot. And I think that was the difference in this series. It was a team that moved the ball and a team that didn't. And we spoke about that in the Lakers Nuggets series, and we spoke about it in the Boston Miami series. But that was probably the big outliner for me, Pro. What were your thoughts on that Game 7?
Yeah, I mean, they just fell back into that trap. I mean, you can't do anything. You can't do anything on a short-term basis, especially when it comes to playing the right way and moving the ball. You can't win 3 games in a row in the playoffs and make this monumental comeback. Wow. Obviously, because you just shared the ball, right? I mean, shared the ball. Nobody really stuck to it. Shot making, driving it, don't let the defense load up and set up. And then in Game 7, they just go revert. Chris Wallace, longtime GM in the NBA, always told me people who always revert back to who they really are. And that's what the Celtics did. They started off selfish and just, not caring. Then they made this pact with each other and played so well over a 3-game period. And then they just reverted back to ISO ball. Now, obviously, what's just, the Tatum thing was so important. Getting hurt in the first couple of minutes of the game really, ruined him for the rest of the game for the most part. So that did ruin things. But they just got an ISO ball. And the Miami Heat just took advantage of it and just jammed it down their throat.
Yeah, I agree. And look, the injury plays a part. But look, at the end of the day, if anyone's got an excuse for injuries, it's probably the Miami Heat, right? Like their roster was depleted through different periods of this season. They're still missing some pretty handy rotation guys on that team, Harrow and who's the other guy, Oladipo. So they have an excuse as well. But that's the thing in the playoffs, the finals, the conference finals. It's no one cares if you're out on the court. Unfortunately, you got to be ready to go. And I got to give credit to Miami. I picked against Miami every series basically. I didn't think they'd get this far. I just thought their roster wasn't deep enough with the injuries. I thought they'd burn out and hit a wall eventually. And they continue to surprise. Congratulations. If you're a Miami Heat fan, you should be very proud right now. And especially when we get to the finals, it's 1-1 right now. But they had an unbelievable run to date, and they continue to get better and better. But where to for Boston? I want to dig in there a little bit. I mean, I broke Jaylen Brown rumors to Houston about a month or 2 ago on this podcast. That's now starting to actually get in the mainstream media, Pro. So we're headed. Our sources are decent for once. We're getting some good sources there that are in my ear that are over there in the US that he's trying to team up with James. He has a year left on his deal, but if Boston knows he doesn't want to stay and commit, do they move him early? But on the flip side, he can make a shitload more money staying in Boston. So could he do the Anthony Davis, potentially what Zion's going to do is sign that home extension so you get that extra couple of million and then ask for a trade a year or two in? I don't know, but it just seems like Jaylen Brown's not the happiest camper in Boston, Pro. I don't know what your thoughts are there, but I think there's a slight chance that he could be gone with a year left on his contract and Boston just says, you know what, we're going to move on and build around Tatum. Or maybe he does extend for that big money.
Yeah, Bogues. I mean, he's owed $30 million for one more year. Boston has a lot of power here, which they can do either one or two things. Obviously, re-sign him to like $300 million, and just basically build around him and Tatum. Problem is you handcuff your whole organization as far as your cap's concerned. You can't do anything. The threshold of your taxpayer mid-level, I think they even take that away in the new CBA where you don't really have a mid-level. If you go, pass a certain threshold, now you're basically saying these are our guys and we're going forward with this. Yes, they are very close to winning a championship, but look, Red Auerbach was famous, folks, in the 80s, making these trades with the team to get off somebody or a pick that everybody really coveted and valued. He felt as though they didn't have as much value as people thought he did, and then brought back a laundry basket of things, like brought back Kevin McHale, brought back Robert Parrish, brought back Len Bias, who passed away, but they got the pick based on getting off people and then getting picks. I think if I'm them, Houston really doesn't have anybody that I really want on my roster. Nothing that's really going to solidify me going forward. Now, there's a lot of talk about the Portland Trailblazers dealing up the third pick of the draft, Anthony Simons, and maybe another player to make the deal work. To me, if I'm the Celtics, I'm dealing Jaylen Brown yesterday. I'm dealing him to Portland if they have it. What I would want to do is get flexibility. If you get, if there's a lot of value in the draft in the third pick, get somebody, the Scoot Henderson, there's the kid Miller from Alabama. Both of those players, could really bring you back a lot of value in the future, bring you back a really good player. Simons is a player that averages over 20 points a game. He can really shoot, a good young player, and maybe sign and trade for Thibault as well, where you have an elite defender to put in your, into your wheelhouse. Look, the problem is they might have enough to get to the championship. Do they have enough to win it? Well, this year they probably did if they played a certain way and things went, a little bit differently. Maybe they did have enough. But my thing is you really handcuff yourself. And there's some inner problems with the team. You always hear about it. And plus guys like Al Horford, like how long are you going to go with Al Horford? How long are you going to go with Robert Williams? Injury issues and stuff in the past. They've got a good core, right? And I just think that if you could bring back multiple players, a draft pick that could be worth, a laundry list of things, either you re-sign them in the future or you trade them and get more. Like, you got to keep this thing going. Tatum is your guy. Tatum is someone you build around. He's like your quote unquote Larry Bird of the team. And now everybody else, you got to build around. And I think if you can get multiple assets back in a trade, you do it. I think, look, if you trade Brown, can you get back there? Can you get to a final? Maybe you can. But I just think there's something missing there. And for him, I don't know what he wants. Like, he doesn't seem like he likes Boston all that much. There's always some backhanded stuff being said about the fan base or this or that. Obviously, he probably wants to be, probably a bigger option than he is. Although he's averaging 27 and 7. I don't think it's not like he doesn't get the ball there. But for me, Bogues, if I'm them and you have a deal where you can get a top 3 pick, you can get a really good young player, and then you get another player, preferably a Thibault that could really guard people, and it's a young player, and now he could be your elite defender. Then you go and say, all right, what's the trade market for Marcus Smart now? And then maybe bring in a point guard or bring in somebody else. And then you sort of add to your rotation, and then you add to your future as well. I think that, I think that signing Brown isn't a terrible thing to do, but I just think it handcuffs you, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on it, bro?
Yeah, I agree. I would move him. I mean, look at the stats in the playoffs. Jaylen Brown was horrendous. He took more shots than Tatum, and I agree with you. I think Tatum's the clear number one on this team. Jaylen Brown's done a great job of working himself into being a very good number two. There's some people that debated who's the man on this team. It's Tatum to me. But you look at the numbers in the playoffs. He averaged 19 points, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, right? He shot 41% from the field. He shot 16% from three. Sorry, this is in the series versus Miami. He shot 66 from the line, and he had 3.6 turnovers to 3.4 assists. That's not getting it done. So I disagree with your Marcus Smart take. I think Marcus Smart's a valuable piece on this team because you need that. You need that guy that's crazy and will do some crazy shit every now and then. So I would keep Marcus Smart. I'd keep Robert Williams. Al Horford, getting very old. If you're relying on Al Horford, you're in some trouble for a long term. I think he'd be valuable in their locker room and on the bench, maybe playing some spot minutes, but his minutes should start dwindling. Grant Williams, I don't mind as a role player. I agree with you. Jaylen Brown, they need to move him. If they bring someone in like Simons, great get. I also think they need to look to get someone like, similar to when the Warriors brought in Andre Iguodala. They need a calming veteran influence on that team. Now, they have veterans. Al Horford's probably that, but not. He's a big, right? So there's only so much you can do from that aspect. They need a guard, a 1, 2, or 3 man that can come in when shit's hitting the fan, when they're not making shots. And that's where Andre was great for the Warriors. He would huddle us up and say, hey, we need to get a good look right now. We need to get to the free throw line. We need to do this. They don't really have that. And that's the piece I think they're missing. They thought it was going to be Evan Turner 4 or 5 years ago. That didn't work out, but they need someone like that, someone who can just bring a steady and calm influence to that team. But I would move Brown myself. I'll just move off it, get some picks back, maybe go on a three-way trade with Portland, even just direct with Portland possibly, but I'd definitely do it. I think Derek White had a great playoffs for the most part. You can fill in some of Brown's minutes with that, or production at least, not similar positions. Brogdon, a lot to be desired, went missing in the playoffs for the most part, especially against the Miami Heat. And then you got to rebuild. You have to rebuild. So, I just don't think that this team's going to get it done now. I think that mental aspect of how close they got is going to haunt this exact group for a long, long time. So I think they're going to move it on, and you're going to build around Tatum. He continues to get better and work on his game. His growth's been immense, and I think Boston is just going to have to make some changes. You roll the dice on bringing this team back, it could implode. You could be a second round team, and they are paying Jaylen Brown $240 million over whatever,
or 300
plus million. Yeah, 300. There you go. The new cap going up. So I wouldn't do it. I agree with you. So that's where Boston's at. Let's move on to the finals. Currently 1-1. We have a series. It's going to be a great series, I think. I'm still going Denver 4-2 because I'm going to continue my reign of picking against Miami. Who do you have, by the way, Pro, in this series?
Well, I have Denver win. I have Denver winning the series. Yeah, I don't know
4-2,
how many games. Probably 4. I would say 4-3. I think Miami could punch them in the face one more time, especially when you go back to Miami and then, let it. I think they could punch them in the face one more time in Denver as well. So I think they can make it a series. But again, I think it'll be a little bit too much for them to overcome the win in 7. But I would have Denver. But yeah, let's just make it fun. Let's say in 7.
Every possibility to go 7. A lot of these series have gone depth, and Adam Silver will be loving 7 games. But it's been interesting. This series, I think game 1, some people argued that Miami could have won that game. They charted missing a bunch of open threes. A few of those go down, and they're in a ball game. And a lot of people, are saying there's not a whole lot of panic. They're gonna make some of these shots eventually, and they're gonna make it a series. And they go down 104-93 in game 1, and then they did exactly that in game 2, which just finished. But Denver had Miami had control early. They didn't finish the first quarter well. Denver took over. Denver then had a nice little lead going into halftime, and I felt like they probably thought, we're there, we're good, we're going to go 2-0, we're going to handle our business 2-0, go back to Miami, have some drinks on South Beach, and then just win 1 in Miami, come back to Denver and win it. But these things are swinging, and they ended up losing, and there were some big adjustments today with the Miami Heat, which I liked. They went, which I didn't think they'd do. They went back to that zone heavily, Pro. I didn't think they'd go back to that zone in this series just because you got one of the best passing big men of all time. If he catches it, so for people out there that are coaches or that are half hobby basketballers that don't know a lot of the language, generally when you have a big that can pass the ball at an elite level and you zone a team like that big catches it in the middle of the zone around the free throw area, it's pick his poison because the zone then collapses and a guy like Jokic can just pass it. But they rolled the dice and went with it, and they actually stayed home in the zone. What I mean by that is when Jokic caught it there, they left the middle of the zone, which was generally Bam, to guard Jokic one-on-one. Everyone was staying home on shooters. And I think it worked. I think the balance of Denver moving the ball really dried up, especially in that last quarter. There were a lot of isolation shots. There were some uncanny turnovers from Jokic out of that position. And there was a lot of isolation basketball. There was a period of lull where Denver were really grinding isolation basketball. And I kind of thought to myself, Miami's got a chance here if they can score at the other end. All of a sudden, they start hitting some shots. Gabe Vincent comes and hits some big threes, and they steal the game. They win it. And then, obviously, Denver made a run late and made it a game. They were down, 10-odd points late in the fourth quarter, and they come back and win it. But I like the adjustment of starting Kevin Love just to take away any easy production from Aaron Gordon. They posted him heavily early in game one and got a lot of easy baskets. So Spo adjusted by starting Love for Martin. Martin then comes off the bench, and it really stymied Denver. They couldn't get a lot of easy baskets early. Their flow looked stymied, and that's the Miami Heat. I mean, Spo's an expert at making adjustments game to game and was studying that film. I mean, he probably would have watched the game 15 times between game 1 and 2, and credit to the Miami Heat. It's 1-1 pro.
Yeah, Bogues, no doubt. On the first game, look, Max Strus going 0 for 10. It was a big problem for Miami. Like, so many, those guys were so good. The role players were so good, throughout the Boston series, throughout the whole playoffs, really. And, to have Max Strus go 0 for 10, a bunch of other guys struggle. And the ball just moves so well for Denver, especially like Aaron Gordon getting easy shots, the post-ups and the easy looks. I mean, that really helped them. I really like Jokic. Look, Jokic could shoot 58 times if he wants to. Guy's a phenomenal player. But it seems to me like when he shoots under 20 shots a game, when he shoots 13, 14 shots, he passes, he gets easy looks, he gets everybody else involved, he gets to the free throw line. I think that they're so much tougher to guard, where if he shoots 28 times, look, he was effective as hell, tonight, 16 to 28, 7 for 8 from the line, 2 for 5 from 3, like it's scoring 41. But I think everyone else has to eat, with him. And I think that they just took the ball out of some people's hands. And, look, Michael Porter going 2 for 8, 1 for 6 from 3 doesn't help. Gordon was effective for sure. It didn't seem like he was as effective. He scored 12 instead of 17 in game 1. And it was just tough. Jamal Murray came up big, when they needed him. But it's just, look, Miami made plays. They didn't. The one thing about Miami, like Jimmy Butler's always like, he's always got that poker face on. Doesn't get too riled up. Sometimes he does with the antics, but for the most part, he's just steady. I like the Kevin Love insertion into the starting lineup without question. I think Bam Adebayo played a lot better, facilitated better, made shots, was more of an offensive presence, in my opinion, and really helped them. Max Strus going 4 for 10 from 3 really helped. Gabe Vincent stepped in. And I thought it was, Duncan Robinson made some great plays off the dribble. I think there's not enough said about his development from just being a spot-up shooter, being an elite spot-up shooter, elite shooter that could shoot on the move, to somebody who was basically, toe tagged as in an NBA, body bag, basically, can't play him for about 6 months. Then you play him big minutes. Now he's taking guys off the dribble, straight line drives, really tough to guard. I just think it's going to be a great series. I think it's going to be like 4-2, 4-3. It's anybody's game. I think Denver's too good to lose. And I don't know, that sounded stupid coming out of my mouth, but like it really, they just do seem like they have more talent, like just too much talent, but you never know. But I think it's going to be a great series. I think, Mike Malone's going to come back and put him in another situation, make some changes just like Spoelstra did tonight. And I just think it's going to be a great series. I think they're just going to change things up. I think that, you'll see the ball move a little bit more, from Denver's point of view, get a lot more cutting going on, get Gordon the post, see if he could fit. Like if I'm him, I'm facing up and driving, but driving Love. I'm forcing Love to guard me. I'm getting him in foul trouble. Love can't, he's got a great basketball IQ, but he can't guard anybody. But if you try to muscle him, he's pretty good at just getting a body into you. Yeah, for sure. He's smart. He's a genius when it comes to that stuff. But if you get him in that mid post, face him up, drive him, rip him through, and then force him to to get into some, take some fouls because he can't stay in front of you, that's a different story. We'll see. I think it's going to be a great series.
Yeah, Porter Jr. wasn't great today, minus 15 in his minutes. I don't think Denver have anything else they can really go to personnel-wise. The DMPs, Thomas Bryant, Kunkar, Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan. I mean, there's not much there. Ish Smith that they can really bring in. Maybe Reggie Jackson gets a bit of a sniff. I doubt it. I think they're going to stay with their rotation of 8. Here's a stat for you, Pro. We don't have to use this in useful or useless, but I've gone back and just checked because I read this stat and I wanted to just confirm it. So shout out to StatMuse. I just punched it on their website. When Jokic scores over 40 in a playoff game, they're 0-4 historically.
Wow, how about that?
It's a small sample size, but whenever he has big scoring games, it goes back to obviously today he scored 40, Denver versus Phoenix earlier in the playoffs, and then Minnesota versus Denver. He had 43 in that one. He had 53 versus Phoenix, 41 today against Miami, and the other one was 43 against San Antonio in 2019. But when he has big scoring games, they lose those games. And we had that discussion, I think, a couple of podcasts ago. Do you just try to let him, not try to let him because it's not easy to score in the NBA, but do you just live with him having 40 or 50, right? As crazy as that sounds, if no one else is really involved and feeling it, and that's what happened today. He scores 41, has a hell of a game. What I look at on the stat sheet and I circle, he had 4 assists, Pro. 4 assists to 5 turnovers. That's just not Denver Nuggets basketball. When I feel like they're better off having, Jokic have 25, 10 rebounds and 10 assists. They'll have a better chance of winning that game because more people are touching the ball and the ball's moving better. So credit to Miami. They stuck to a game plan. They said, we're going to guard you one-on-one, make you work. You want to score on us, go for it. I also think I like Bam attacking him at the other end. I think it makes him guard, wears him down, tires him out, foul trouble, all that kind of stuff. So we're in for a series, Pro. I'm excited, man. I think this is, it's a tough one to pick. Only picking Denver because of home court and just because of Jokic, really. But I wouldn't be overly surprised at this point if Miami somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat. But I'm loving it. I'm loving it so far, Pro.
I blame Christian Braun. Christian Braun took 1 shot last game and they won. He took 3 shots today. Even though he went for 3, they lost. So stick that up your ass, stat guys. I think that he's the big problem here. Take the ball out of his hands, and Denver wins the series. Also, I heard that Nikola Jokic went out with Nikola Jovic from Miami.
I heard about that, actually.
Yeah, so my thing is, Spoelstra's not, and Riley isn't, they're not below the line of saying to telling Jovic to get Jokic drunk, get the whole playbook from Denver, and then just know the game plan. So maybe there's some espionage going on, with Jovic and Jokic. Who knows? I'm just saying.
Yeah, I found that strange. I know they're boys and the whole Serbian connection, but in like when we played the Cavs, I wasn't catching up with Delhi during the finals. Like, fuck that. Like we're friends. We're on the national team, but I'm not. Like we're enemies for these 7 games. So I found that interesting that they actually publicized it to him. But that's Jokic's MO though. Like, he's like so nonchalant, and I don't think it would have would affect his psyche whatsoever.
Hell
but
no.
That was a pretty interesting note. All right, moving on to some news. So we're looking forward to the rest of this series. I've got them all penciled out. I'm trying to free my days because usually in Australian time, Pro, they're a more friendly hour for us. They usually start at 10 or 11 in the morning. So if I cancel any appointments that I'm involved with in Australia with you, it's because the NBA Finals are on. Bob Myers gone, Pro. Gone. Look, we were sniffing this out. The media was sniffing it out. Apparently he got a huge offer, what was reported to be the biggest offer or the highest paid GM in the NBA as of current, rejected it. We kind of were like, well, how do you reject that? Did he really get it? Is that just the Warriors kind of putting out good PR? But he's gone, has not announced what he's going to do. There's rumblings that, maybe New York, maybe something else, maybe he takes a gap year for a year, but he's going to be a hot commodity when he's ready to come back. Arguably one of the most successful GM eras of all time, pro. 11 seasons, 4 championships, 65% regular season winning percentage of 571 to 304 losses over the last 11 seasons. The best record in the NBA over that stretch. Fantastic what he did. He came in when I got traded there, and they had a GM that I met when I got traded, and they're like, well, he's kind of our GM, but we're going to phase him out to this guy. It was kind of a weird vibe, like who's the GM, what's going on? And then Bob took over, and obviously coming from being a player agent, just a really good presence about him, a good aura, really smart guy. Guys love being around him, a guy you could joke around with and have fun with. I actually shot him a text a couple of days ago, and just had a little back and forth text message with him. Was pretty cool about our time together and whatnot and all of that. But he, I think one of the best decades of basketball that a GM's been a part of a team. Probably the only one better I'd probably have. I mean, Jerry West has been up there as well, Pat Riley, but Jerry Krause obviously getting 6 chips in a decade would probably trump this one. But he wasn't as well liked, old Jerry, in Chicago, as well as Bob was liked in Golden State. And then just the humility of him, the infamous press conference when Kevin Durant did his Achilles of Bob Myers. If you haven't watched that, jump on YouTube and watch that press conference. It was tear jerking, and he went out to bat. He was teary eyed, and I really respected him after that, pro. But a good one's gone. We'll see what happens, eh?
Yeah, I mean, what a great run. I mean, from day one, just sort of building that team, staying together, was he the one who drafted, did he draft Steph? He started there, or did he inherit Steph when he came in?
Yeah, he inherited Steph, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I didn't know.
Steph was 2009-10 season was Steph. So Bob came in, I think, 2012, it would be 2012 because it's 11 years. So he came in after. So he got a little bit lucky there, of course.
No, of course. But no, I just didn't know. I mean, I met Bob when he was an agent. He represented Perk, actually, when we drafted him in Boston. And I remember picking him up. I had to take a limo and pick up those guys the day after the draft for the press conference and just having a 25-minute conversation. And, most agents are just going to fleece you. They're just they're not guys you really want to, spend much time talking to. But he was a really interesting dude talking about different things. And he was a good guy. He's just one of those guys that just sort of, I could even see him, Bogues, now going back to basketball. I could see some big time company, Disney or something, making him his CEO. I think that the guy could run a company, could run an organization, multi-layered. He's not just pigeonholed into basketball. I mean, he's really well liked, knows how to work it, knows how to, knows how to be around people. Never really heard a bad thing about him. Every one of these other GMs you hear something about. Now, of course, a competitive edge, you got to have something, and, you got to have something that maybe people don't like, but you get the best out of people. I heard this dude is one of the best human beings ever. And, I don't know. I mean, he did such a good job there in Golden State with drafting and putting people together and handling things. And, people just loved him, and they loved to work for him. They loved to compete and go to war with him and for him. And it was a cool thing to see. And yeah, it's an interesting situation that happened. Maybe he just got burnt out of the thing. Maybe he could see the writing on the wall. Maybe Lacob's son, like I told you in past episodes, whenever you have a son of a billionaire that's sort of moving up in the game, that, it's like a locomotive that you're not stopping it. So maybe they were like, hey, this is where it's going to go. Maybe he knew that going forward. And he's like, you know what, let me step away from it. Maybe he sees the fact that they can't really make a move now that could keep these guys back on top, and he just sort of doesn't want to see it just keep going down. I don't know. Who knows? But it was a hell of a run. Wish him good luck, wherever he ends up.
100%. And he's been a huge part of their success. He's probably, it's never a good time to leave, but this is probably the best time to leave the Warriors, where there's, I think, without disrespecting them, it's probably downside from here, you'd say, pro. I mean, they're getting older. They have some decisions to make on Draymond and Clay and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out. But probably the best time to possibly leave. I think Steph's probably only got another couple of good years left in him at that insane elite level.
Bogues, it's not a move they can make now. Probably a couple. If they didn't make the Poole move with the contract, right, and then once they got rid of KD. like, look, they did a great job getting Wiggins and getting off of, Russell, right? Got Wiggins. That worked out great. But without that other guy, with the injuries bug that hit them, with Thompson, and they just couldn't get another guy like a KD. They lucked out with Harrison Barnes, having him, do so well for them. Moved on from him, got Kevin Durant, and then once they got, they moved on from Durant, and they had to go through that, that period. Then they got Wiggins. It really helped out, but now with their aging, with probably the diminished value of Draymond Green as far as what you can get in a trade. Klay Thompson getting up there in age, you could still get something for Klay. The one thing about these organizations, Bogues, and that like San Antonio, Boston, Chicago back in the 90s, what they could always do is make these moves to acquire new talent that to go around your big time players, your superstars, and just to keep on doing it. Like, these organizations, were able to do it. San Antonio did it, getting Kawhi, moving on from players right before they hit that level of just declining. When they get Kawhi Leonard and they traded some guys out, some veterans out the door. Boston, they didn't do it. They just sort of let those guys age. They got some bad luck with Reggie Lewis passing away and Len Bias passing away. Lakers brought in Rodman. The Bulls brought in Rodman. The Lakers sort of moved around. Lamar Odom. They had Kobe. Then they got they got Pau Gasol. They were able to sort of, to steady things out. Golden State did it with some moves. I just don't think there's any move to make now, Bogues. You're obviously going to keep Curry. You're never going to trade him. And then even if you move Thompson, say, what are you going to get back that's really going to keep you back on edge? Who are your young players coming up where you could say, you know what? We could either move these guys for, big time payload in a year or two, or we could, move this guy for all these draft picks with the talent that we have. We could stay on top. There's really not a move to make anymore. And plus now with your salary cap situation, with what you did with Poole, I just don't think you can do it. I think if you're going to leave, this is the best time to leave. Look, they had a good, they had a good run at the end here. They obviously didn't go as far as they wanted to, but the way they played all season, they actually probably overachieved playoff-wise what you probably thought they were going to do, even though they sort of fell short. This is not a move to make, Bogues. I think they're handcuffed. I don't think there's enough draft picks in anybody's cupboard to get rid of Poole off his contract. The Draymond Green thing's going to be tough. I just think it's going to be tough for them to move, to really stay on top of this thing.
Totally agree. We'll see. We'll watch this space. We said that before their last championship versus Boston, though. So you never know with them. But, yeah, I think it's starting to revert to the mean. I don't think there's a lot of upside left. Obviously, Steph and Clay and Draymond, they're champions and will be forever. But, age is undefeated and they are really hamstrung with what they can do with their salary cap. So I'll be interested to see who they hire, whether it'll be a family hire in Kirk Lacob, who's I think he's the assistant GM right now. He's involved in the front office, Joe's son, or if they go outside of the club, if they promote someone in the club, I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll watch that space. All right, a lot of coaching changes, or coaching moves at least. James Borrego has now become the associate head coach of New Orleans. I find the associate head coach label kind of pretty glaring, pro. Like I know it's just a word, but what does that do for their current head coaching? It's Willie Green, right, over there in New Orleans. Is he on the hot seat now because there's an associate? But from what I understand, Borrego will be running their offense. He's an offensive expert, they say, and he'll be running that side of things. So we'll see how that goes for New Orleans. Monty has signed a monster deal. Monty Williams has gone to Detroit for 6 years, $78.5 million, pro. He'll be the highest paid coach, I believe, in the NBA right now. Just, 13 odd million a year. Unbelievable deal. Vogel for 5 years, $31 million, not even half of that to Phoenix, which was an interesting one as well. But what are your thoughts on those three moves, bro?
Well, Borrego, look, the associate head coach title is just something fancy agents throw in to get more money and make your guy a little bit more important than he really is. He's head assistant. Like every team's got a head assistant, so it's not a big deal. Borrego's a great mind. I think he's a really good. I think he's a really good number 2. I don't think he's a great number 1. But hey, look, that is what it is. That's a really good hire for New Orleans. Gives those guys the front bench, gives them a little bit of help. The Monty Williams situation. Look, Monty Williams took total advantage of the fact that nobody wants to go to Detroit. Same thing with free agency. They know that nobody wants to go there. You're a B. I would say he's a B level, not a level Spoelstra type coach or Pop type coach. I think he's sort of that second level. He hasn't really done anything great in his coaching career. He made the finals once. That's great, but he's a little bit over 500. I think he's a good coach. I think solid coach, right? And what happens is he knew that nobody, look, they're finalists, Jaron Collins and Kevin Ollie. They're not that great, right? They know nobody wants to go there. They're not drafting the top 3. So there's nothing really great going to come in Detroit this year. They're an okay team. They got they got very limited shooting, very limited talent. So Monty's like, no, just keep saying no, because that money's going to go up. My question is, were they in the middle of the interview with like Kevin Ollie, like, Kevin, what's your situation on your 5-out offense? Well, can you hold that minute? I got a call coming in. Yeah, tell him, he doesn't want 75. Tell him it's 85. Boom. Oh, no, Kevin, seriously, what about our spacing on the left side? Oh, hold on a second. Oh, no, tell him he's our guy. 90, he got it. Signed and sealed. No, Kevin, I'm going to have to put a pin in this interview. We'll call you next week on Zoom, buddy. No, I just want to know how that went. But no, seriously, like nobody wants to go there. And that's what they do. And they get, and Monty knew that. And probably Monty didn't want to be there, but he's like, kept on saying no, until he's like, you know what? This is what I want. And they're like, you know what? We need our coach. I remember when I was in Boston, we were going to be really bad. Jim O'Brien, they fired Jim O'Brien, or he stepped down my first year in the middle of the year. And then they were looking for a coach. They got Doc Rivers. I think Doc got like $5 million a year. And Doc was coming off, Orlando. I think he was in the media for maybe a year. And then that's the guy Danny Ainge wanted. And we were bad. And he was considered a really good coach at the time. And that's the guy. And we knew that we weren't going to be good, but at least we had what they felt as though was a championship level coach. And they would have signed anything to get the guy. And I think that Monty Williams just sort of stepped into the 2023 version of that. They're not going to be good. They got a couple of good young players, but they really need a lot of moves, and they want to get at least something that people can get excited about. Monty Williams is that guy. If that, look, people may not think that, but that's what they think. And that's what he did. He took advantage of that. And with the Phoenix hire, look, Frank Vogel is a smart coach. I was with him in Boston. He was an assistant when I was there. Very smart coach. Is he better than Monty Williams? Who knows, right? Made the same thing. Won a championship. Didn't really have a lot of success. He had some success in Indiana. Really smart offensive coach. They brought that in. Like I told you before, Isaiah Thomas and the owner's heir. He was going to make the move there. I heard he's running the team. I don't know if that's true, not true, or what have you. And they hire Frank Vogel. Safe hire. Somebody who's, like I said, really organized, really smart. Could get the offense, keep the offense going. They kept Kevin Young, their assistant coach under Monty, signed him to the largest deal an assistant coach ever had, $2 million a year to be their head assistant. That's an interesting hire, but hey, look, this is Vogel's like fourth team. And it is what it is in the NBA. You never know, Bogues. You never know.
Totally agree. Very interesting with the coaching moves. I spoke to a friend of mine. He was asking, do you think the market for coaches should be more theoretically pro? Because it's a fair point. He was saying that you look at the size of the salary caps now. The coaches probably, bar Monty Williams, of course, haven't really seen that jump as much as max players have, and the mid-level's grown, and your second-tier stars are now making 20 to 25. It feels like the coaches have lagged. They haven't really made that massive jump. And arguably a coach is probably one of your most important non-playing assets you have. Obviously your GM's up there as well. But I think your coach is probably arguably even a little bit more than your GM because he's putting all the pieces together and making sure it functions on a daily basis, hands-on, right? Do you think the market for coaches is lagging a little bit?
I think the coaches definitely should get a bump, as far as what we're doing. It's unbelievable. Some owners really, even though I say that like coaching, maybe I've said it's irrelevant in some cases. I think that you need talent. It doesn't matter who your coach is, you need talent. You definitely don't want the wrong coach. You might have a guy that doesn't really like get it done, but like keeps you organized and keeps you going. But you definitely don't want to hire the wrong coach. I think that it's unbelievable, some of these owners, that they go cheap on their coaches. They'll sign all these players to all this money and they'll give them the best things, locker room, planes, millions of dollars on this, and then they go cheap on their coach. Some organizations probably feel as though they're not going to win, that there's only 30 of these jobs they could offer them whatever lowball offer they want, and they're going to hire. They're going to take it because these jobs are so high demand, and a lot of these guys are going to be like, yeah, I'll take it because I may not get another one of these. And then some owners really feel as though their coach is a big time stepping stone to what they want to do as an organization. Case in point, Monty Williams getting $100 million. If that's who you think your coach is, you might as well, pony up. I definitely think there shouldn't be any coaches getting paid less than $5 million a year. Especially the valuation of these franchises being $2 billion, $3 billion, $4 billion.
I mean, even five's low though, pro. Even like you do a 5 year 25. That's if you're even a half decent coach, like that's a pretty low number when you factor in the cap and what max guys are getting. Vogel 5 years, 31 million is probably the bottom end, right?
You got Kevin Durant. You got a team that's arguably one of the best teams in the West. Probably second or third. And yeah, you would think that job would be $8 million a year minimum, not $6. But
what's interesting, pro, is they've given Vogel a lowball deal for a team of superstars, when Detroit's given Monty a huge deal for a team of young players. There's some glaring narrative there where I think Phoenix know we're not going to overpay our coach because if KD or Booker or Chris Paul aren't happy, he's gone. Whereas, none of those Detroit players have enough oomph or respect in the league yet to fire a coach. So they're like, we're going to pay Monty. He's our guy. We're showing you this is 6 years, 80 million, fellas. He's your coach. You better buy in or you're not playing. So there's actually a narrative within that.
But also look at the finalists for the jobs. You had Doc Rivers, Vogel, maybe even Nick Nurse, right, in the Phoenix job, that until he dropped out to get the Philly job. And then you got Jaron Collins, Kevin Ollie, and Charles Lee, an assistant coach for Milwaukee. So that no big time candidate wanted to go to Detroit, so they had to pay that. Phoenix, you're right, probably is thinking that, look, this is our. Now I would have thought that Phoenix would have been like, Doc, Nick Nurse, what do you want? Like Kenny Atkinson, maybe even in Golden State, what do you want? Because we need, this is big because we gave away everything to get Durant and to make that move. This is it. If this doesn't work and Booker says he wants to go or Durant says he wants to go, we're done. We got no draft picks. We don't really have a lot of young players, besides Jock Lawndale that we're going to, pay handsomely in the next couple of months. Shout out to Jock. But that's the thing. They know, I would have thought that they would have been like, all right, what do you guys want? 10 million. We got to get this done. So let's get let's pay a lot for this position, get the best guy that we can. Look, I'm not shortchanging Vogel. I think he's going to do well there. I think they're a good team. I think that Frank knows he's not going to be confrontational. He's not going to be controversial there. But it's interesting that they only paid $6 million a year, and it is still a lot of money, but that it's unbelievable that like that contract of Monty's, he's not going to hit those thresholds, but he can make I heard like 113 million, in his deal. It's amazing.
If there's playoff bonuses, he's not getting them. Not for another couple of years anyway.
Yeah, it's like my play Dallas gave me like half a playoff bonus. Didn't in my second contract. Didn't make the playoffs one time, so it's really moot point. But like yeah, it's interesting though. These like one organization, how they value the coach and how much they'll pay. But look, there's not a lot to salute in Detroit. There really isn't. I mean, it's Monty's signed for that money. He's making great money, but the downside is now you're in Detroit.
You live in Detroit.
You live in, and
you've gone from Phoenix to Detroit. Ouch. Yeah, that does take you another 30, 40 million on your contract for that.
You know what? I would commute with all that money. I would just commute from Phoenix every day and just fucking private the whole time.
Private jet.
Yeah.
Last one, Michael Winger. Don't really know much about this guy, but he's believed to have been hired by the Washington Wizards on an annual salary of approximately $9 million. So a pretty big number there. Wizards hired Winger away from the Los Angeles Clippers, where he was a general manager under Lawrence Frank. I don't know much about him, Pro. Do you?
Yeah, he came from Oklahoma City, went to the Clippers. Clippers have like 18 assistant GMs. And I mean, talk about money, like the money they're paying over there is crazy with all the bells and whistles they got. But I've heard a real smart guy, knows the game, cap guy, I think, and very well respected in Oklahoma City. I heard they had a try to pry him away from Oklahoma City and LA. And I thought that I've heard Tim Conley from Minnesota was going to go to Washington, but I guess that didn't work. But yeah, $9 million a year to run the team. And that's the thing, Bogues, like the GM right now, there's no more powerful position than GM. It used to be like coach had a lot more power, not a lot more power, but he had just as much. Now, there are some coaches that carry a lot of weight in these organizations. But now it seems like you hear about these GMs, like they hire the staff, they run the whole deal. That's why a lot of these GMs are getting huge money, because they run the staff, they run the player development, they run everything. And a lot of these head coaches don't have that power. They don't have unless they're a celebrity coach, they don't really have the ear of the owner. And a lot of these GMs do. So yeah, now before you started seeing these GMs, they made $3 million, $4 million, whatever. Now you're seeing a lot. Like I think Daryl Morey's over 10, Winger's 9. I think Toronto. I think that he's making. Especially since he won the championship, he's making huge money. A lot of these GMs are making bank, and they run the whole show in a lot of these places. And it sort of minimizes the head coach in a lot of these spots. Now, obviously, you've got guys like Pop that run the show, and there's other coaches that have a lot of power. Some coaches have like split power, the GM and the head coach, which I think is right. They sort of have equal power. They don't have power over the other. They just do their job. But a lot of these guys, Bogues, the GM really has the power in the organization.
100%. And it's a pretty big salary still for a guy that has been an assistant for a while, obviously lauded in the NBA circles, but not well known to get that much money. It's been pretty crazy. All right, last one. Ja Morant has come up again. We don't need to get into the Ja Morant penalty and what we think it's going to be, but just a note, Adam Silver's comment saying that he's got a penalty in mind and he's not going to announce it to derail the attention away from the NBA Finals, Pro. So we'll wait and see what that's going to be like. He said he's going to announce it once the season's over. So watch that space, Pro.
Yeah, pretty smart. Like you said, it's probably going to be, like we said, we're not going to talk about it, but it's probably going to be something that he doesn't want to answer questions to during the finals. Let this thing happen, and then you announce it. Probably, I don't know, Bogues, would you announce it after the draft, before Summer League? Would you do it after Summer League? I mean, the schedule is going to come out in August, so like you don't want to go too far with it. Do you go in between?
The draft's end of the month, so maybe you do it. I think you do it before free agency, just in case teams need to make moves, right? Like that'd be ideal, just in case Memphis need to reload, or if it's a whole season, God forbid, then Memphis has big problems, right? the teams that maybe throw trade offers if it is the whole season. There's a lot that can happen. So
I would do it.
I think
I would do it right after the 30th. No, right after the 30th pick, where the assistant, what's called president of the league has the commissioner of the league does the second round.
The second rounders.
Yeah, the 30th round, a 30th pick. The Miami Heat draft Johnny Jackson. By the way, Ja Morant. Yeah, you're gone for 81 games. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you guys at the draft. I draft next year. It's been great. So I don't know.
That'd be a good one. That would be a good one for sure. All right, that's it for the NBA for now. Not a whole lot of news other than the NBA Finals. Everyone watching that, so I hope everyone's enjoying it. We sure are. Australia, NBL, there's been some rumours that minority owners of the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, John Wall and Dante Exum, are linked to potentially play for Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Now, if I'm a betting man, I would say that the Dante Exum rumours are as 0% as you can get. I just don't think that he's going to give up. After the season he had in the Euro League, he had a fantastic season. I think he's probably going to get an NBA deal, I would think, in free agency. If not, he's going to end up making €1 million a year in Europe. So cross that one. John Wall, he's made a lot of money in his career. He's made $200-300 million. I doubt he's going to come and live in, the suburbs of Melbourne in Wanturna to play for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. I highly doubt it. That one I'll give 5%, bro. I'll be fair. I'll give that 5%. Maybe he wants to rekindle his NBA career and try to get back there that way, but he is older now. I just don't see any of those happening. I think that's all media fluff, and I hope I'm wrong, Pro, but I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see him doing that. Look, he's got a lot of money. He made a lot of money. I don't know if anyone's going to really give him a chance. I think he's basically done, but that is a pretty significant move to go all the way out there to play. I've seen crazier things happen, but I think those are accurate. I would say right around 4 or 5%, that happening. Exum, I just don't see happening. The year that he had, I think he can go with the EuroLeague team, make a lot of money, make north of 7 figures, and I think he could make really good money. And no offense to the Australian League, the NBL, of course, but I just think that he'll probably do that more than like a Delhi who just probably just wants to come home at the end of his career, versus somebody who's got some gas left in the tank, sort of rekindled his career. I could see him going to a EuroLeague. I think he'll end up back in the NBA, to be honest, but I could see him going to a EuroLeague situation.
Totally agree with that, Pro. All right, moving on. I have a bone to pick, Pro, with the IOC. Do you know who that is?
Olympic Committee, Bogues? I mean,
yes.
You've got a bone to pick with so many people and so many different.
No, I've calmed down a little bit with my age. I haven't really started anything for a month or two, which reminds me, I need to put a few tweets out and get some fire going on just some random shit. Just
nice.
But the IOC, man. So I've got people that are doing some documentaries from from some Olympic teams and from this and from that. They try to get some footage from the Olympics. Have a guess how much the IOC charge for footage of anything Olympics.
Anything Olympics.
Have a guess.
So
if you wanted to get like highlights of the Boomers game, round one game, and use 1 minute of it in a TV commercial, or you want to get a guy winning a high jump gold medal, whatever, any footage that was part of the Olympics, how much would you think that would cost?
I'm gonna guess $20,000.
For how long?
Oh.
For the whole game, or?
Yeah, let's just say, well, yeah, $20,000 for a game, for one game footage.
$10K USD per minute, Pro.
Woof. Wow.
$10,000 USD they charge. These people at the IOC.
They run a 900
have got to be
number?
kidding themselves. What's that?
They run a 900 number back in the day.
Man, like it's not only that, athletes, this is what gets me about the IOC. Athletes aren't paid generally to play for their national team. They might have bonuses for medals, but generally the way it goes for most sports is they fund themselves, especially these smaller sports. Basketball, soccer, different. We're professional athletes in the NBA and soccer leagues and this and that. Tennis players are making good money, right? So it's not a big deal. But some of these, athletes, rowers and gymnasts and archers and whatever, right? Shooters, they fund their whole way there and they're basing it on getting a medal that then gives them bonuses from their sponsors, right? So you go to these places, you're not making money. When you're in the village, get this, Pro. So when I'm in the village, I'm technically not allowed to do interviews from the village. This is how crazy it is. So if I'm doing a Zoom interview or a radio interview, I quote unquote need to leave the premises of the village. So no one does it. Like, so I'm going to walk out my laptop out the gates of the village to do an interview? Like, get the fuck out of here. It's ridiculous. But they say, if you're not allowed to do it, it's illegal. If we catch you, you get in trouble. On top of that, how about this? So Matisse Thybulle he does like a vlog thing, right? You've seen it?
Yeah, it's good.
He does a vlog thing where he just cameras himself and funny shit behind the scenes. That's part of the 10K Pro because it's filmed on their premises. Jeez, insane. So if he wants to use that for any promotional material, or if he wants to do marketing with it or give it to, this guy that's doing the documentary, still the same fee. Still the same fee, pro. Insane, man. I just want to put that out there. Like, the IOC is the biggest mafia-esque organization for sports in the world, man. Like, it's up there with the NCAA, and at least the NCAA is kind of caught on and like, okay, like we got to start allowing these peasants to make some money so they can eat. IOC is just the same. It's ridiculous, pro. So I want to put that out there. I don't know if people realize that, but if I record my own little thing with my teammates, I got to then pay the IOC to use it because it was filmed in their stadiums. Like, that's some absolute bullshit.
So Thybulle, he's got to pay them $10,000 a minute that he does on his vlog now, or no?
I'm not sure. I think if he uses it for himself, not to make money, I think it might be okay. Or I think he's just said, you know what, kiss my ass. What are you going to do about it? But if that's used, so if Matisse's footage is used for an actual documentary that's going to be on TV or Netflix or whatever, even that footage is $10K a minute to use. That's shot by Matisse.
So if I wanted a minute of Lawndale playing, it's going to cost me $10,000 if I sell it. Like if it's a commercial.
Do you use it? So if you want to use it for hoop consultants, hey, look at Jock Landale in this game versus Rudy Gobert, $10K a minute for you, bro. Discount, $10K a minute. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when I heard the number. I knew the tactics that IOC go about on a daily basis. But then they wonder why the Olympics is dying and people aren't holding it in the same prestige as it once was. It's ridiculous. And these athletes, like I said, basketball players, these guys like myself who made a shitload of money, we don't go to the Olympics to make money. But who I feel sorry for is these small sports that this is their everything. It's a 4-year journey to get there. And then you're just nickel and diming these people. Like, it's just wrong. They need to change it. That's absurd. Like, if you're not paying athletes, they should be able to monetize their name and their medal and their ceremony as much as they bloody want. You shouldn't be making the money out of it. Otherwise, pay the athletes, because without the athletes, you don't have the event. Back in the day, I guess you got your name out there because of the Olympics and all that. I get all that, but just unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it when I got that figure. I'm like, okay, maybe you say 10K for the game. You get the whole game tape for 10K.
To be honest with you,
10K a minute?
To be honest with you, I'd be like, $10,000, you get as much footage as you want throughout the Olympics for one sport, but a $10,000 a minute is, I mean, imagine $10,000 a minute for that team. Imagine what the Dream Team could have charged in '92. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, insane.
Yeah,
insane.
Nuts.
It's insane. Like, it's absolutely bonkers. And they want to dictate to you that you can't do a radio interview from your room because you're on Olympic grounds. So anyhow, let me know what you think of that, people. Crazy stat for everyone. All right, moving on. Dabble, a social betting experience. We can jump into the banner channels, connect with the Dabble community, and write a bet all together. Follow Copy Bets, jump into banter. Download the app, have a Dabble all one word, in the App Store. Dabble socially, and you must always gamble responsibly. Stats, useful or useless. Most free throws attempted prior to today's game in the playoffs. Who would you have as number one, pro?
In this year's playoffs, or just overall?
This year's playoffs, total free throws attempted.
Probably.
So,
I'm just going to go.
A few that are still playing.
Oh, okay. Because I would just go with your deal with saying the Lakers, but Denver?
No, player.
Denver? Oh, player. I apologize. Player. Jimmy Butler.
Bang. Jimmy Butler, 155 attempts. Jason Tatum, second, 137. Jokic, 114. Anthony Davis, 108. Only players up until pre-today's game, which is game 2, with over 100 attempts, bro. Useful, useless?
I would say it's pretty useful, man. It's Yeah, I say it's pretty useful. What do you think?
Pretty useful. Just shows the aggressiveness of Jimmy. You know, he's not known as a prolific scorer at times, but just gets it done. 155 free throw attempts, leading the league. Just gets there. Next one, players with 15 plus playoff triple doubles all time. Who would you have, Pro? Who would be your guesses? Who's your top three?
Players with 15 triple doubles. I would say
15 or more triple doubles all time.
Okay, 15 or more triple doubles. I would go Magic Johnson. I would go LeBron James. I don't think Bird was a big triple double guy. Hell, let's just go Larry Bird. So let's go Bird, LeBron, and let's go Bird, LeBron, and Magic.
Close. LeBron and Magic are in there. The third one's currently playing, Pro.
Jokic?
Yeah, Jokic is in there.
Wow, how about that?
15 plus playoff triple doubles all time, and he's going to probably eclipse both Magic and LeBron by the time it's all said and done with his retirement. But useful or useless?
That's crazy. I would say it's useful, man. That's a heck of a stat that a guy that's only been in the league a few years, I mean, he's been in the league for a little bit, but, to go against those guys who've been in like deep playoff runs and he's gonna eclipse those guys. I would say it's pretty useful.
Useful, definitely. Really, really tough to do that, especially in the finals and the playoffs. So there's obviously the players that have done in the regular season, but doing it in the playoffs is a whole different story. So very good. Heat this season, Pro. In the regular season, Pro, pre-playoffs. 30th in points, 27th in rebounds, 25th in assists, 25th in offensive rating, 21st in net rating. And they're currently in the NBA Finals, Pro. Useful or useless?
I'd say useless because they're in the NBA Finals, but it's a pretty cool stat, but obviously useless if they're grading so low, yet they're in the finals. Now that was the regular season, Bogues. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. Was that all these
regular
stats?
Season.
Regular season. That's crazy. I would say, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going to flip it. Useful. I mean, shit. It just goes to show you that you got to throw that stuff away. In some instances, you got to throw that stuff away in the regular season and just play. And everything goes back to zero come the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. What do you think?
I think it's useful just to say, I think that the league is somewhat more and more becoming not so important in the regular season. Like this is almost. This Miami Heat run is almost akin to the Moneyball movie, right? Or the Moneyball era of the Oakland A's, right? Even though Miami's they've spent a fair bit. But my point being, they've got so many undrafted players. They've got injuries. Teams might revamp now about just giving out $30, $40 million gung-ho to whoever and just say, you know what? We'll get that role player. We think he can mold into a really good player. We're going to give him an opportunity and not pay that guy. We're going to let him walk or whatever, right? It could do that. We know it's a copycat league. And the Warriors changed the game for the better or worse with going small and the way they play, and the Heat just getting there the way they play. Like I read the roster out last week, Pro. We read the roster out in the Miami Heat, and you're like, this is not a finals team. Like, it's not. No disrespect to the Miami Heat, but on paper, you look at those players and you compare them to a Boston or a LA or a Phoenix. You'd say, no way, Milwaukee, but you got to give them kudos. Like, congratulations, unbelievable. So I think it's a useful stat to say, is the regular season becoming less and less important? We see it in baseball. It's the same thing, right? Like so many games that they just take it more for granted. It's becoming like that in the NBA now. And it's a dangerous game to play because you want your fans still selling out regular season games. You don't want them to just say, you know what, I'm just going to wait till the finals or to the playoffs. That's when the big boys come to play. I'm not going to spend all my hard-earned money on a weekly basis watching regular season games. And if, I know the NBA definitely knows that we got to keep these games competitive. They've changed the awards rules for games played, and that's all because of that. They got to keep it competitive. So I think it's useful in that vein, Pro.
Yeah, Bogues. It's we talk about that probably 10, 15 times a year, on this podcast about the importance of it. And look, everything's geared towards if you could win a championship. And I think that it is a tough game to play, but in the end, that's where you get judged by. Do you make a run for this championship? And look, I've said it for a long time. I think that the two, besides players on your team, I think the two biggest investments an owner has to make is with their front office being able to identify talent, right? Not only just talent, but the intel of what's the makeup of a player inside, what kind of competitor, how coachable, how much is he going to put into this thing, and then also the development of it. And I'm not trying to be biased because that's where I'm from, but that is important. And with Miami, it's so important to identify a player that has potential, that maybe not 28 other teams don't really see that you see, that has potential to be a rotation player or more, and to be able to give them these players and these assets to development team. And by the time their second contracts, it's time for their second contract, they go from somebody who, might have been rated 120 in the draft or 98 in the draft or 78 in the draft, and you turn them into, a top 150 player in the league, and you can continuously do that. That's worth its weight in gold. So, my hat's off to what Miami's doing and some of these other teams. I think there's about 4 teams that do it right, and they're one of them. And it's just an interesting deal. I don't know what's more important, Bogues, to be honest. Like, on one part, you want to do what's best for your fan base for 82 nights a year, at least 41 in your home gym. But at the end, you don't want to wear it down by, game 72, you get 7 huge injuries and you can't compete in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's more important. I know that everyone just makes a huge deal about the playoffs. How many championships do you win as a coach, as an organization, as a player? So everything, even though people were like, oh, wait a minute, they just want to rest up for the playoffs. Wait a minute, you're the same fan, or you're the same talk show host that kills players and teams and GMs for not winning in the playoffs, yet you want to stand on your soapbox and say, why are you resting for the playoffs? Why are you resting for the playoffs? It's just such a hypocritical thing. Look, we all do this to win. We all do this to compete to win a championship. So I guess that's what you want. But on the same pedestal, you have to tell your fan base, we really care about you throughout the year. We want to give you the best product possible. I really don't. I think behind closed doors, Bogues, I don't think I think that it's championship, unless you're a tanking team that just doesn't want, that wants to get the first pick in the draft. But I don't know, Bogues. It's such a tough thing to talk about. Like in public, everybody wants to say the right thing, but behind closed doors, you know how it is. It's like, how are we going to win a championship? This sucks. We got to do this. We got to do that. I don't know, man. It's a tough deal. But the blueprint right now, if for everybody looking, a GM, a team, a trainer, like developing role players is a huge thing. Huge thing. Because they could be so valuable. Look at all those guys on minimum deals in Miami that really outperforming guys that are making $20 million a year in playoff series. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing to look at.
Totally agree. All right, moving on to Q&As. First one is for you, Pro, essentially. Instagram. This is from Puchko12, Pucko12. I enjoy the banner you and Pro have. Speaking of Pro, he's proof basketball is for everyone. I think that's a reference to your good looks, Pro. How did Pro become a shooting coach, and how did he start out?
Oh, wow. Shooting coach. Look, I'm more of a development coach, but that really has been around a lot of great teachers of the game of shooting. There's a guy that I used to work camp with. Actually, I've known him since I was about 11 years old. He's a professional shooting coach. His name's Dave Hopla. And Dave travels. He was the first shooting coach I ever heard about. He played overseas a little bit, played small college basketball, and is an unbelievable shooter. And I worked, watched him lecture a ton of times, worked camps all over the country with him. And, he taught me how he teaches guys how to shoot. So basically from watching him time and time again. And then one of my favorite things is to watch players shoot and then just sort of, form my own opinion on what could be improved if I was working with that player. There's thousands of players that I watch continuously that I would never step on the court with for one reason or another, that, never get to work with. But I think just perfecting my craft of doing it, that was important. Now, when I got to places, look, I was more of a footwork guy, film, breaking down film, footwork, creating workout programs on the floor to get players better. But when I got to Dallas, the Mavericks, we really had a lot of players that couldn't really shoot. And, guys like Jay Crowder, guys like Rajon Rondo, Justin Anderson, Chandler Parsons. And when I'm in the gym with them at night, I was like, look, we gotta do something with the shot, and it's usually small little tweaks that, that's what I did. But, and that's what I would do. And I started to enjoy it. I got, I wasn't really allowed from our head coach to work with guys on shooting for one reason or another. It was an Iran and Iraq situation with like me teaching one way and him teaching another, that was completely opposite of one another. So that was a tug of war, but that's it. Now, how I got into basketball, with that, look, I was a manager in a Division III school in Boston. I got hooked on with, I was a high school coach, JV coach. I thought I'd just be a JV coach, varsity coach, high school coach the rest of my career. And I got hooked on with a guy that coached an AU team when the AU was actually good in Boston. And I started working big time camps in the summer. I worked about 12 weeks of camp, traveled the country, basically not making any money because all the money I would make, I'd have to pay for my travel with, and basically learning from some big time coaches and getting some mentors that I would, believe it or not, I would just shut the fuck up and let those guys talk to me and just ask them a ton of questions. And then what I did was any given moment, I would work out with players, boy, girl, high school, college, professional, didn't matter. I just had to work with thousands of players to get my craft. Got lucky, my guy that was the AU coach got hired by Rick Pitino when he was at the Boston Celtics as his head scout, got me into working out NBA guys, Bruce Bowen, got me in with the Celtics a little bit, got me my job with the Celtics, worked camps like the Nike All-American camp and all these camps, just started working out all these players and got a pretty good reputation with it and got a chance to work with, Tim Grover in Chicago is one of the first NBA trainers, and Kobe, and got hooked on with the Mavericks and just got pretty fucking lucky, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's sort of how it became a thing.
Beautiful. Hope that answered your question. All right, next one, Q&A from Matt Nolan. This one's on Facebook. If Xavier Cooks for some reason gets released from his NBA contract, now the Kings have signed DJ Hogue, would he be able to come back to Sydney, or would he be a gun for hire in the NBL for any team to pick up? Well, we hope he comes back to Sydney, Matt, but he would be a free agent essentially. We don't see him getting released at least for a year or two if he was. He signed a 4-year non-guarantee, so yes, he can potentially be released after a year or two. But they've brought him in and signed him on a deal because they see something. He had a pretty good finish to the season for him from all reports in practice and in their games. They'll at least give him another year or two before if they do move him on. But if they did tomorrow, the answer to your question would be we'd be in the market just like anybody else. And the good thing is right now we have cap space. So if it did happen tomorrow, we have cap space because we still haven't went and signed all our starters. DJ Hogue is the biggest name we've signed in the off-season. The rest were players that we've replenished on our bench for now. So, yes, to answer your question, he'd be a free agent. He'd go wherever he wanted, but we think that he'd choose Sydney. He loves being in Sydney, and we'd be able to match most offers as of today. Now, in a year's time, if our roster's filled with other guys and we don't have the cap space, that's just the unluckiness. We receive, obviously, a buyout for him going over to the US, so we've received a little bit there, but that's just the tough part of basketball and the business of basketball. You just got to deal with it and kind of reload a roster the best way. But we hope we don't see him back in the NBL, if that makes sense, because that means he's doing great things in the NBA. But my mail would be that even if he, for some reason, didn't stick in the NBA, that he'd be getting a pretty decent salary in Europe that we probably couldn't afford to match. Last one is from @Candyman on @Candyman_ on Twitter. If you could change any one rule in the NBA, which would it be? Bro, what would you do? What's one rule in the NBA you'd change?
That's a good question, Bogues. To actually call a fucking travel once in a while, that'd probably be my rule that I would change. Actually call a fucking travel. That's what I would want. What would you? I don't really know. I'm not a big rule guy. as far as what I'm changing. I like the clear path. I mean, the take foul at half. I do like the fact of getting rid of that. You can't do that, but I really don't have one. What do you have, Bogues?
Well, yeah, the travel is obviously a rule that should be implemented. But I'd probably go the goaltending rule. I like that in FIBA.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to take it off the rim if it's out of as soon as it's above the hoop and it's bounced, you should be able to smack that thing off. That's one thing I'd like to change. Just I think that, and it stops that, because there's some calls sometimes that are goaltends that probably aren't, and vice versa, right? There's guys remove it and then they call it a bucket, and then some guys remove ones that are actual goaltends. It's very hard for the referee in real time to get that one right, I believe, because the rule is that if there's a rim, there's a cylinder that's imaginary that goes up in the air. You can't grab the ball until it's come out of that cylinder, and there's a lot that are 50-50, right? So that's one that I'd like to see change. I love that in FIBA, and I think it makes you shoot better too. Like none of this friendly soft rim stuff. You better net it or taking it out of the rim, pro.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I do like that with the goaltend rule as far as the when the ball's in the rim. I watch that a lot in EuroLeague. I enjoy that and Olympic competition. So yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
What do you got for us this week? You got any fact or fake news for us?
Yeah, I got one. No, correct me if I've asked this before, but Tyler Hero will be on the Miami Heat come training camp next year. Did I ask this already?
I don't think so.
Okay, no. I just want to make sure.
Well, if you have, bad luck. Oh, that's a good one. I mean, if I was GM, I would try to move him. But I think it's proven he's expandable. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami goes to market and tries to get some good role players back, especially with the re-emergence, I know we've spoken about, of Duncan Robinson. Man, he had a fourth quarter today. He didn't score till the fourth quarter, and then had 8 straight points, I think, and finished with 10 points in the fourth, all big shots. But he's figuring out the formula, pro. I know this is a hero question, but Duncan Robinson's, I think he's figuring out, I'm such a good shooter. If I slash 1 out of 3 times, I'm going to get a layup. And Reggie Miller figured that out, right? Reggie Miller, Rip Hamilton, these guys just cause so much movement and anxiety around, shit, where's the shooter at? He's coming off all these screens, and they just get easy baskets. And then he's going to go to the third phase of these cuts are going to get his teammates open. So I think Duncan Robinson's starting to figure it out, really starting to figure it out. And I think that then even further scapegoats Tyler Hero. So I think if I'm Miami, I move him. Do they do it? Yes, I do. I think I think it's going to be an off season, but I think the clock is ticking for Tyler Hero in a Miami Heat uniform.
Yeah, Bogues, to me, I agree with that. Look, it's funny because you say that, right? You say that like, I like Strus, I like these other guys, and that they have, Duncan Robinson and things. But then you're like, especially when they go cold scoring a little bit, you're like, man, they need a Tyler Hero type, but to create some offense, because that's what he can do. He likes taking a lot of tough shots. He's a guy that's not afraid of it. I'm not a huge fan. I don't think he's an efficient player like that. I think that it's a lot of just like watching him dribble around and try to find shots. I think, if you look at his contract the next 4 years, 27 million, 29 million, 31 and 33, it's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money, especially when you look at some of these other guys on your roster that you want to re-sign. Also, if you want to make a major trade, that a team that might really covet him. For instance, like Danny Ainge wanted to draft him, from what I've heard from media. I haven't heard that from really like people on his staff or anything, but you read that he really likes him. I don't know. A lot of times when a GM wants to draft a guy, he tends to like him over time as well. So like, you could actually take things back. When somebody's on their rookie deal, you have to attach another contract to it, and it makes it really tough to acquire. Right now, he's at 27, 29, 31, 33. I mean, I'm just spitballing here. Like, say you want to acquire somebody who's a all-star level player that like doesn't want to be in their place anymore. Say you're the Portland Trailblazers, right? And the Dame Lillard thing comes up, and look, Dame doesn't want to be there at some point. Finally says, like, in a month from now, you know what? I've been thinking about it, thinking it over. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go somewhere. And look, you're not going to trade him to you're not going to trade him to, I don't know. You're not going to trade him to some terrible team, the Indiana Pacers or something like that, right? You're not going to trade him to, the Houston Rockets. He's not going to want to go. But if you say Miami Heat, and he's like, yeah, I'll do the Miami Heat. Now, the first part of the deal could be, okay, we're going to center this trade around Tyler Hero. It's $27 million. Dame's making upwards of 50. So now I only have $15 million. I got to trade in this deal, $18 million to make the money work. So now I don't have to trade 8 players with Tyler Hero, or I don't, to get him out. So yeah, I think he's got a lot of value for Miami. I think he does have value around the league. I think certain teams would value what he does. I don't think a lot of teams are begging to have somebody who loves to take tough shots, over and over and over and over and over again to be the center point of their team. But sometimes you can make a deal where, like, if it's Portland and my guy wants to leave, and I want this young player coming back that, fans want to see play, has some talent, already locked into a deal, might be something. I don't expect him to be on the roster next year for them. And look, he's not a terrible player or anything. I just think that they've got so many of these players that now really produce in the playoffs that they could use some of that money going out the door, instead of having him and now having to try to move things around to get those guys paid. Move some salary off the books, get an asset back in a trade, get get a couple of picks, get a player, and then you already have these other guys that have been battle tested in playoffs that you could re-sign, for some, cap friendly deals. I don't know. I don't expect them to be there.
Beautiful. Anything else? Is that it? No more,
folks. That's
only doing one a week now. We're on a budget.
Yeah, I think we're done.
All good. Thank you, everyone at Hoop Consultants, at Rogue Bogues, on all your social media forums. Give us a listen and a follow. And the studio's almost done, pro. When the studio gets done, we're going to have to get on video as well. So you're going to have to put your makeup on and get your eyebrows done and all that fun stuff. Put some gel in your hair.
I wanted to do video. Yeah, fuck off. I wanted to do video 3 years ago. You're like, shut that shit off. We ain't doing video. Now that you're fucking ESPN 9, you're fucking the new ESPN of fucking Australia. You put all that money in that.
Hey man, I've been waiting on these tradies and these laborers to finish this damn warehouse. Everything's slow in Australia, man. Like a 6-month project, 6 years here.
Is that going to be a studio / bomb bunker, or what's it going to be? Is it going to be
it's got multi uses. It's going to have some muscle cars in there, a little weight room, steam room just got finished. Going to try to squeeze in a poker table there. So, it's going to be a Swiss Army knife of warehouses, pro. But we're waiting for the bloody podcast room to get soundproof because it's echoey as hell in there. You hear my voice or a word 3 times, so we can't record in there yet. So I'm actually recording, get this, people, I record from the master bedroom of my home, pro, because sound guy was like, man, I can hear too much of an echo in your study, so I had to move from there. And now I've got this little, those little foldable tables you get from like Bunnings or Home Depot. Got one of those. I unfold it, set it all up. This is what I do for you, pro. The lengths I go to talk to you on a weekly basis should not be downplayed.
Bogues, you spending $8 million on a studio / what do you call it? Like a warehouse. I'm going to be living in a warehouse in about 3 months, but I'm glad you're comfortable in your 88,000 square foot studio / entertainment center. And I'm
doing it tough, bro.
Yeah,
it's tough times right now.
No doubt.
All right. See you next week.
Later, Bogues. See you guys later.
Let's get Rogue.